Princess Vaela of the Vethari Third House had maintained perfect composure in every significant situation of her 22 years. This was not an accident. Composure was, in the Vethari royal tradition, the primary diplomatic skill. The ability to present a surface so controlled that nothing could be read from it unless you chose to allow it to be read. She had been trained in it formally since the age of 7, assessed on it in every diplomatic review since 12, and had arrived by 22, at the particular place of someone who had been very good at a skill for so long that they had begun to mistake the skill for themselves. The joint Concordat military exercise on Station Hulvari had not seemed like the kind of environment where this would be relevant. It was a 3-week tactical exchange program, alien and human military units working together, assessing each other's methods, building the specific kind of interoperability that took years of actual contact to develop. She was there as the Third House's military liaison, which meant observing and reporting, not competing or engaging. She had not planned on pilot Daven Cole. He had not introduced himself to her. That was the first thing. Most people in rooms she occupied introduced themselves, directly if they were confident enough, circuitously if they weren't, but always with the awareness that she was there, and that awareness carried weight. Daven Cole had walked into the tactical briefing on the first day and taken the seat 3 positions to her left, and spent the entire briefing looking at the projected tactical data with the focused attention of someone for whom the data was the interesting thing in the room. She noticed everything in rooms. That was the other part of composure training. But she noticed this one differently, in the specific way that something registers when it fails to fit the expected pattern. On the second day, he had asked her a question. Not about her position, her role, her house, or any of the categories that shaped most approaches. He had asked about the Vethari's navigational pattern methodology, specifically the triangulation algorithm they used in the asteroid field scenarios, because he had been looking at the exercise data and had a question about the underlying math. She had answered it. He had followed up with 3 more specific questions that told her he had understood the first answer completely and was building from it, not repeating the same inquiry differently. The conversation lasted 12 minutes and covered technical material that she had not expected to discuss with a human pilot, and which she found, by the end, that she had been genuinely thinking rather than performing. On the 3rd day, she had been aware of him in the room. By the 5th day, the awareness had become the specific, inconvenient kind that she had no protocol for managing because the composure training had not included this category. She was aware of where he was in any shared space. She was aware of the quality of his attention when it was directed at something versus when it was directed at her, which happened with increasing frequency and with a specific quality of someone who was also noticing something they had not planned for. On the 7th day, they had been assigned to the same small group tactical scenario, which put them in direct working proximity for 4 hours. 4 hours. In which she maintained composure with a specific effort of someone using a skill for the first time against a challenge it had not been designed for. The tactical scenario required 2-person coordination at close range on a simulated ship's bridge. The exact kind of close-working environment that composure was built for, and which was, simultaneously, the exact kind of environment in which composure required the most active maintenance. He worked efficiently, communicated clearly, made one suggestion that was exactly right that she implemented without needing to assess it because the assessment was obvious, and at the 40-minute mark said something that made her almost stop working and look at him. "You're doing the thing where you're thinking faster than you're choosing to show," he said, without looking up from his console. "I don't know what you mean," she said, which was the first thing she had said in her composure training vocabulary that was not accurate. "You paused on the 3rd scenario variable for half a second before proceeding to the standard approach," he said. "Which tells me you saw the non-standard approach, assessed it, and decided against it. What was it?" She looked at him. "At the scenario data." at the non-standard approach she had seen and set aside because the standard approach was appropriate for a joint exercise where demonstrating your methodology was part of the point. The southern vector through the asteroid cluster, she said. The standard route is safer. The non-standard route is faster and has a 14% higher success probability in the specific threat model, but requires the kind of coordination that only works if both parties have trained together. He looked at her. How long would it take to develop that coordination? The specific maneuver requires approximately 6 hours of joint practice to be reliable, she said. We have 5 days left in the exercise, he said. She looked at him. I'm suggesting we use the time, he said. If you want to actually fly the non-standard route instead of just seeing it. Composure in this moment was the genuinely hardest thing she had done. Yes, she said. I want to. She spent the remaining 5 days learning to coordinate with a human pilot whose method was different enough from everything she had trained with that it required real adaptation, not performed adaptation, the kind where you actually change something rather than appearing to. He adapted equally. The non-standard route by the final exercise day worked. More significantly, by the final exercise day, the composure she had trained since 7 years old had shifted into something more interesting, which was the specific quality of someone who had stopped managing the distance between themselves and a situation and had simply entered it. After the final exercise, when the Vethari delegation was preparing departure, Daven Cole found her at the docking corridor. The triangulation algorithm, he said. The one you explained on day 2. I went back to it. There's a modification that applies to the southern vector scenario. I wrote it up. He held out a data chip. You might find it useful.